The stars had always been silent. For all of human history, people looked up at the night sky and wondered if anyone was looking back. They built telescopes and sent radio signals into the darkness. They dreamed of meeting other beings among the stars. Captain Yuna wished they had never found out. She stood on the bridge of the Everlight, Earth's first ship capable of traveling faster than light. Her crew of 47 people had celebrated just hours ago. They had made history. They had jumped beyond the edge of their solar system, farther than any human had ever gone. Now the celebration was over. Now there was only fear. "Read it again," Yuna said quietly. Lieutenant Taiho, her first officer and oldest friend, looked at his screen. His face was pale. "The message is simple, Captain. It says, kneel or be extinguished. It comes from something called the Velen Empire." Navigator Jiwoo turned from her station. She was young, barely 25, and her hands were shaking. "They detected our jump signature. That is how they found us. 3 of their ships are coming. They will be here in 6 hours. 6 hours." Yuna had always believed that first contact with aliens would be a moment of wonder. Scientists would study them. Diplomats would talk to them. The world would come together in amazement. Instead, they had 6 hours before ships came to threaten them. Chief Engineer Do-won pulled up more data on the main screen. "I have been looking at the information they sent with their message. The Velen have ruled this part of the galaxy for 12,000 years. 12,000 years, Captain. They were building empires when humans were still living in caves. What else?" Yuna asked. Do-won hesitated. Then he showed them the images. The bridge went silent. Yuna saw worlds burning. She saw cities turn to ash. She saw species she had never imagined, beings of all shapes and sizes, and she saw them dying. 17 different species, according to the data. 17 entire civilizations destroyed because they refused to worship the Velen as gods. "They call themselves divine," Taiho said. "They believe they are gods. Every species they meet must bow to them, build temples for them, worship them. Those who refuse are erased." Sergeant Gunwoo, the head of security, stepped forward. He was a big man with a calm face, but even he looked worried. "What are our options, Captain?" Yuna thought about it. The Everlight was an exploration ship, not a warship. They had some weapons, but nothing that could fight an empire that had conquered galaxies. Running was not possible either. If the Velen could detect their jump, they could probably track them anywhere. "We have one option," Yuna said. "We contact Earth. We tell them everything. And we hope someone back home has an idea." She gave the order, and Jiwoo sent the message. Everything they knew about the Velen, every piece of data, every terrible image. It would take time to reach Earth and more time for a response to come back. While they waited, Yuna walked through her ship. She visited every section, talked to every crew member. These were good people. Scientists who had dreamed of discovering new worlds. Engineers who had built impossible technology. Doctors, pilots, technicians. They had volunteered for a mission of exploration. And now they might become the first casualties of a war humanity did not even know was coming. Dr. Hana, the ship's xenobiologist, found Yuna in the observation deck. The older woman had spent her whole life studying the possibility of alien life. Now she knew aliens existed, and they wanted to enslave humanity. "I have been analyzing their biology," Hana said. "From the data they sent, and the Velen are tall, about 3 meters. They glow with a strange light that other species thought was divine power." Hana paused. "But I think there is more to it. The glow, the way they speak directly into minds, the weapons they use. It all seems connected to their ships somehow. Their ships are made of living crystal." Yuna considered this. You think their power comes from their technology, not from themselves? I think so. But I need more data. If we could get close to them, scan them properly, that might happen sooner than we want. The response from Earth came 3 hours later. Yuna gathered her senior crew to hear it. The message was from United Earth Command, and it was short. They want us to make contact, Yuna said after reading it twice. They want us to meet the Vulin, talk to them, and buy time. Buy time for what? Dohwan asked. They did not say. Just that Earth is preparing something. Gunwoo shook his head. Preparing what? We discovered faster than light travel 8 months ago. These aliens have been conquering the galaxy since before humans discovered fire. What could we possibly prepare that would matter? I do not know, Yuna admitted. But Earth Command thinks there is a chance. And right now, that is all we have. She looked at each member of her crew. Taiho, who had served with her for 10 years. Jiwoo, young and scared, but still at her station. Dohwan, who could fix anything but could not fix this. Hana, whose curiosity was stronger than her fear. Gunwoo, ready to fight even when fighting was impossible. Here's what we are going to do, Yuna said. We are going to meet these Vulin. We are going to pretend to be impressed by them. We are going to act like foolish primitives who do not understand the great honor of meeting such powerful beings. And while we do that, Hana will scan everything she can. We will learn their weaknesses, if they have any, and we will send that information to Earth. And if they decide to kill us instead of talking? Gunwoo asked. Yuna smiled, though there was no happiness in it. Then, we will be the first humans to die fighting for our species. But I do not think they will kill us. Not right away. Beings who call themselves gods want to be worshipped. They want to be feared and admired. They will want to show us their power before they destroy us. You are betting our lives on their arrogance, Taiho said. I am betting our lives on the fact that nothing in the universe could be as arrogant as something that calls itself a god. The bridge was quiet. Then, slowly, Taiho nodded. It is a good bet, Captain. One by one, the others nodded too. They were terrified. They all knew they might die in the next few hours. But they were also determined. If humanity was going to face an empire of self-proclaimed gods, then the crew of the Everlight would be the first to stand against them. Jiwoo's console beeped. Captain, I am detecting the Vulin ships. They are slowing down. They will arrive in 20 minutes. Yuna took her seat in the command chair. She straightened her uniform and took a deep breath. All hands, this is the captain. In 20 minutes, we will make first contact with an alien species. They believe they are gods. They believe we should kneel to them. We are going to show them what humanity is made of. She paused. Not by fighting. Not yet. But by being exactly what they do not expect. Brave enough to face them. Smart enough to fool them. And stubborn enough to never give up. She ended the message and watched the stars through the main window. Somewhere out there, 3 ships were coming. Ships that belonged to an empire older than human civilization. Ships that had destroyed worlds. But the Vulin had never met humans before. That, Yuna thought, was their first mistake. The Vulin flagship was the largest thing Yuna had ever seen. It hung in space like a mountain made of light. The crystal surface glowed with colors that had no names in human language. Beside it, the Everlight looked like an insect next to a whale. Their ship is called the Throne of Eternal Light, Taiho said quietly. According to their transmission. Yuna nodded. She had selected her contact team carefully. Taiho would be her second in command. Dr. Hana carried hidden scanners in her clothing. Sergeant Gunwoo came as security, though his weapons would be useless against the Vulin. A beam of golden light surrounded them. Yuna felt heat crawl across her skin. not painful but deeply uncomfortable. The bridge of the Everlight disappeared. When she could see again, she was somewhere else entirely. They stood in a vast cathedral made of living crystal. The walls pulsed with soft light. The ceiling rose so high that Yuna could not see where it ended. And everywhere, in great circles around them, aliens knelt. Yuna had studied the data about other species the Velen had conquered. Now she saw them in person. Creatures with 4 arms and scaled skin. Beings that floated in the air, their bodies made of something like smoke. Things with too many eyes, or no eyes at all. All of them bowed toward the center of the room, where a raised platform waited. And on that platform sat a Velan. He was 3 meters tall, as the data had said. His body was humanoid, but wrong in subtle ways. Too long in the arms. Too many joints. His skin was pale gray, and his 6 eyes studied the humans with ancient intelligence. Light surrounded him like a cloak, and Yuna felt his presence pressing against her mind. "You are small," his voice said, but it did not come from his mouth. It appeared directly in her head, bypassing her ears entirely. "Fragile. Your world is young. Your species is younger still." Yuna forced herself to step forward. Every instinct told her to run, to hide, to kneel like the others. She ignored those instincts. "We meant no disrespect, Great One," she said. The words felt strange on her tongue. She had never called anyone by such a title. "We are new to the stars. We did not know the proper way to greet beings of your power." The Velen on the platform tilted his head. "I am High Divine Molrak, eldest of the Velan, voice of the Eternal Order. You speak as though you wish to learn. We do. We wish only to understand our place in the universe." Behind her, Yuna heard Hana shifting slightly. The doctor was scanning everything, recording data that might save humanity. They just needed time. Molrak gestured with one long arm. Holographic images appeared in the air around them. Earth, blue oceans, green forests, white clouds. The most beautiful thing Yuna had ever seen, and also the most vulnerable. "Your world will be added to our dominion," Molrak said. "Your people will learn to worship us as gods. They will build temples in our honor. They will offer tribute and prayer. Those who refuse will serve as examples for those who remain." Dongwu's hand moved toward his weapon. Yuna gave him a sharp look, and he stopped. Getting killed now would help no one. "We asked for time," Yuna said. "One cycle of our world around its star. To prepare our people. To teach them proper reverence for your divine nature." Molrak laughed. The sound was like stones grinding together, and it echoed in her skull. "You bargain for the lives of billions as though you have something to offer. What could humans possibly give the Velan? We have conquered galaxies. We have ruled for 12,000 years. Your species learned to leave its own planet only recently. You are nothing. We have knowledge," Yuna said quickly. "Our fast of them like technology. We achieved it in a way your databases do not record. Different principles. Different physics. This was a lie." Yuna had no idea how Velen technology worked or whether humanity's was different. But she had seen something flicker in Molrak's 6 eyes. Curiosity. Even gods, it seemed, wanted to know things they did not know. "Explain," Molrak commanded. For 4 hours, Yuna talked. She explained human science, real and invented. She described theories that did not exist and discoveries that were only half true. She asked questions when she ran out of things to say, and Molrak answered them with the pride of a teacher speaking to a slow student. All the while, Hana recorded everything. The frequency of the crystal walls, the energy signature of Molrak's glowing aura, the way other Velen moved in and out of the chamber, always connected to the crystalline structure around them. Finally, Molrak raised a hand. "Enough." Your knowledge is primitive, but perhaps there are seeds of interest in your babbling. I will grant you 30 days to prepare your world for our arrival. Use this time wisely, human. When we come, your people will kneel or die." The golden light surrounded them again. The cathedral disappeared. Una found herself back on the Everlight. Gasping for breath, she had not realized she was holding. "Move," she ordered. "Get us away from here. Maximum speed." Jiwoo's hands flew across her console. The ship jumped, and the Velen fleet disappeared behind them. They were safe. For now. Una ran to the medical bay where Hana was already analyzing her data. The doctor's eyes were wide with excitement. "I found something," Hana said. "Look at this." The screen showed Velen's cellular structure. It looked complex at first, but Hana pointed to specific patterns. "They are not gods. They are not even particularly advanced biologically. Their power comes entirely from their technology." "The crystals," Una said. "They're ships." "Exactly. The Velen have a symbiotic relationship with their crystalline vessels. The glow, the telepathy, the weapons, everything they use to seem divine. It all comes from the ships. The crystals channel and amplify their biological energy." Hana paused. "But if you separate a Velen from their ship, they are just organisms. They would die in minutes." Una stared at the data. "You are saying their greatest strength is also their greatest weakness." "More than that. The crystals resonate at a very specific frequency. Every Velen ship, every piece of their technology, it all vibrates at the same harmonic pattern." Hana highlighted a waveform on the screen. "If we could disrupt that frequency, if we could shatter the resonance, their entire fleet would fall apart." Hana nodded slowly. Their entire fleet would fall apart. Una felt something she had not felt since the first Velen message arrived. She felt hope. It was small and fragile, like a candle in a storm. But it was there. "Can we do it?" she asked. "Can we build something that disrupts their frequency?" "I do not know. I am a biologist, not an engineer. But I have all the data now. The exact frequency, the resonance patterns, everything. If anyone on Earth can figure out how to use this information, they have 30 days to do it." Una put her hand on Hana's shoulder. "You may have just saved our species. I found a weakness. That is not the same as winning." "No," Una agreed. "But it is a start." She walked back to the bridge and found her crew waiting. They looked exhausted but alert. They had faced gods and survived. Now they had something even more valuable than survival. They had knowledge. "Send everything to Earth," Una commanded. "Every piece of data, every recording, every theory Hana has developed. Priority 1 transmission, maximum encryption." "What do we tell them?" Tayo asked. Una smiled. It was a small smile, but it was real. "Tell them the gods are not gods at all. Tell them the Velen can be beaten. And tell them they have 30 days to prove that humanity kneels to no one." The message raced toward Earth at the speed of light. Behind them, the Velen fleet waited, confident in their 12,000 years of victory. They had never lost. They had never faced a species that fought back and won. But they had never faced humans before. And humans had 30 days to change the universe. Earth had never seen anything like it. Within hours of receiving the Everlight's message, the world changed. Old enemies became allies. Countries that had argued for centuries now worked together. The threat from the stars had done what nothing else could. It had united humanity. General Sujin stood before the United Earth Defense Council, a group that had not existed 1 week ago. Leaders from every nation watched her on screens around the planet. She was a small woman with gray hair and sharp eyes, and she spoke with the confidence of someone who had spent 40 years preparing for moments like this. The Velen believe they are invincible, she said. They have ruled for 12,000 years. They have destroyed 17 species. They have never lost. She paused. But they have a weakness, and we have 30 days to exploit it. Dr. Minho, Earth's leading quantum physicist, stepped forward. He was a thin man who looked like he had not slept in days. That was because he had not slept in days. The Velen technology operates on quantum entangled resonance patterns, he explained. In simple terms, their crystal ships vibrate at a specific frequency. This frequency is what gives them their power. If we can disrupt that frequency, their technology will fail. How do we disrupt it? Asked the American president. Minho showed them a design on the screen. It looked simple, almost too simple. A sphere about the size of a refrigerator, covered in antennas. We are calling them echo bombs. Each one releases a precisely calibrated electromagnetic pulse. When this pulse hits Velen crystal technology, it creates a cascading failure. The crystals crack. The resonance shatters. The ships fall apart. The room was silent for a moment. Then the Chinese premier spoke. Will it work? In theory, yes. We have tested small-scale models against simulated crystal structures. The results are promising. Minho hesitated. But we have never tested against real Velen technology. There is no guarantee. How many bombs do we need? General Sujin asked. 1 per ship, at minimum. The Velen fleet has over 1,000 vessels. We need to build 3,000 echo bombs to be safe. And we need to build them in less than a month. Can it be done? Minho looked at her steadily. It will be done. We have no choice. Across the planet, factories began working day and night. Car manufacturers stopped making cars and started making weapon components. Electronics companies donated their entire supplies. Scientists who had spent their careers on peaceful research now focused on one goal: building something that could kill a god. Private Yunji was 19 years old. She had joined the military 6 months ago, expecting to spend her service in comfortable office work. Now she stood in the cargo bay of a transport shuttle, learning how to arm an echo bomb. Pay attention, said Corporal Jiho, the squad's demolitions expert. He was a serious man with calm hands, and he treated the bomb like it was a sleeping child. You will have 90 seconds to arm this weapon. Maybe less. Every wire matters. Every connection matters. If you make a mistake, the bomb fails. If the bomb fails, everyone dies. Yunji swallowed hard. What if I freeze up? Then 8 billion people become slaves to alien gods. Jiho looked at her without judgment. You are scared. Good. Scared people pay attention. Now watch again. She watched. She practiced. She learned. Around her, thousands of other young soldiers did the same. They were the delivery teams, the ones who would carry echo bombs to their targets when the Velen arrived. While the military prepared for war, the rest of Earth prepared for deception. The Velen expected worship. They expected humans to build temples and plan ceremonies. So that is exactly what humans did. In cities around the world, construction crews built massive structures. They called them temples of welcome. News broadcasts showed happy crowds practicing chants of greeting. Artists created giant statues of Velen figures based on the images from the Everlight's data. It was all fake. The temples were empty shells hiding weapon platforms. The statues contained scanning equipment. The crowds were actors, practicing their roles for the greatest performance in human history. Admiral Hyunwoo commanded Earth's fleet from the bridge of the Unity, humanity's largest warship. It was not large by Velen standards. It would look like a toy next to the throne of eternal light, but it carried 50 echo bombs, and its crew knew exactly how to use them. The fleet will hide behind the moon. Hyunwoo told his captains in a briefing on day 15. When the Velen arrive, they will expect to see worship, not resistance. They will spread out over the planet, positioning themselves above major cities to accept tribute. That is when we strike. What if they detect us? Asked one captain. Then we fight from behind the moon. It is not ideal, but we will still have surprise on our side. Hyunwoo looked at each captain in turn. We get one chance at this. One moment when the Velen are confident and spread thin. We hit them with everything at once, or we do not hit them at all. On day 20, Captain Yuna finally returned to Earth. The Everlight landed to cheering crowds and weeping families. Yuna walked off the ship and directly into a briefing with General Sujin. Your data saved us, Sujin said. The echo bombs are built. The fleet is ready. We have a plan. Yuna looked at the holographic display showing Earth's defenses. 3,000 bombs hidden in satellites and space stations. 200 warships waiting behind the moon. Millions of soldiers ready to fight on the ground if needed. Will it be enough? She asked. I do not know, Sujin admitted. The Velen have destroyed 17 species. Some of them were more advanced than us. Some of them probably had plans too. Then why do you think we can win? Sujin smiled grimly. Because we have no choice. Surrender means slavery. Failure means extinction. The only option is victory. Yuna nodded slowly. I want to be there when they arrive. I met Molrak. I looked into his eyes and saw 12,000 years of arrogance. I want to see that arrogance shatter. You will be at the main temple. The Velen will expect you to present our tribute. Instead, you will give the signal to attack. On day 28, Admiral Hyunwoo addressed his fleet one final time. His voice carried to every ship through secure channels. In 2 days, the Velen arrive. They have never lost a battle. They have ruled for 12,000 years. They think we are primitives, barely worth their attention. He paused. They are wrong. We are not primitives. We are humans. We built cities while they were conquering their first planets. We created art while they were destroying civilizations. We dreamed of the stars while they forgot how to dream at all. He looked at the faces of his crew, young and old, scared and determined. They call themselves gods. But gods do not bleed. Gods do not make mistakes. Gods do not underestimate their enemies. His voice hardened. The Velen are not gods. They are tyrants. And tyrants can fall. The fleet responded with a roar that shook the hull of every ship. On the Everlight, now docked at Earth's main orbital station, Yuna listened to the broadcast. Taiho stood beside her, along with the rest of her original crew. They had started this journey. They would see it end. Are you ready? Taiho asked. Yuna thought about the 12,000 years of Velen rule. She thought about 17 dead species. She thought about High Divine Molrak sitting on his crystal throne, confident that another primitive world was about to bow before him. I am ready, she said, and I am going to enjoy watching him fall. Day 30 arrived. Earth held its breath. The Velen were coming, and humanity was ready. The Velen fleet arrived at dawn. 1,200 crystalline vessels emerged from the darkness of space in perfect formation. Their combined light was so bright that night became day across half the planet. People in Tokyo saw the ships rise over the horizon like a second sunrise. People in New York watched them descend through clouds that parted before their approach. At the center of the formation hung the throne of eternal light, larger than any human city. It positioned itself directly above the Pacific Ocean, casting a shadow that covered 3 continents. High Divine Molrak broadcast his presence to every device on Earth. Every screen, every speaker, every radio suddenly carried his voice. speaking directly into the minds of 8 billion humans. Humanity, your time of preparation is complete. We have come to accept your worship. Kneel before your new gods. In cities around the world, the performance began. Millions of people gathered in carefully designated areas. They bowed their heads. They raised their voices in chants the Velen had provided. To any observer, it looked exactly like what the Velen expected. A primitive species welcoming their divine rulers. It was the greatest lie ever told. General Sujin watched from her underground bunker. A satellite feed showed the Velen fleet spreading out. Individual ships left the main formation and took positions above major population centers. London, Beijing, Moscow, Cairo. Each ship settled into place, expecting tribute and worship. Exactly as planned. All units report status, Sujin commanded. Confirmations came from around the world and beyond. 3,000 echo bombs were in position, hidden in satellites, in space stations, in debris fields that humans had carefully placed as offerings to the approaching gods. Each bomb targeted a specific Velen ship. Each bomb waited for one signal. Fleet status? Sujin asked. Admiral Haiyan Wu's voice came through clearly from his position behind the moon. 200 ships ready. Weapons armed. Crews standing by. We are invisible to their sensors. Dr. Minho? The physicist monitored his screens with hands that did not shake. He had not slept in 3 days, but his mind was perfectly clear. I am tracking the resonance frequency of their crystals. When the fleet is fully synchronized, that is when the bombs will be most effective. And when will that be? Soon, very soon. On the surface of Earth, the ceremonies continued. High Divine Molrak himself descended from his ship, materializing in the main temple built in what had once been Central Park. Thousands of humans prostrated themselves as he approached. His 6 eyes scanned the crowd with ancient satisfaction. Another world falling before the might of the Velen. Another species learning its proper place. Captain Yuna waited for him at the altar. She wore a simple white robe, the costume of a human priestess, designed by costume experts who had never seen a real ceremony in their lives. In her hands, she carried a crystalline sculpture. It was beautiful, designed to appeal to Velen aesthetics. It was also a fake, and it hid something very important. Molrak stopped before her. Up close, he was even more terrifying than she remembered. His body radiated heat and light. His presence pressed against her mind like a weight. "You are the one from the small ship," he said. "The one who asked for time." "I am, Great One. I have spent these 30 days preparing our people to receive you properly." "And have they learned?" Yuna looked at the kneeling crowd. Actors, all of them, playing their parts perfectly. They have learned everything they need to know. Molrak almost smiled. It was a horrible expression on his alien face. "Then present your offering, human. Show me the devotion of your species." In her ear, a tiny communicator crackled. Dr. Minho's voice came through, barely a whisper. "Frequency is synchronized. All ships connected. Now is the moment." Yuna raised the crystalline sculpture. Molrak reached for it, eager to accept tribute from another conquered world. "On behalf of Earth," Yuna said clearly, "we offer this gift to our new gods." She pressed the hidden trigger. Nothing happened on Earth. The explosion was silent, invisible, impossible to detect with human senses. But in orbit, 3,000 echo bombs detonated at the same instant. The pulse they released spread through space like ripples in a pond. When it touched Velen crystal technology, the effect was immediate and catastrophic. The resonance frequency that held the alien ships together suddenly reversed. Crystalline structures that had survived 12,000 years of conquest began to crack. The sound reached Earth seconds later. It was unlike anything anyone had ever heard. A galaxy worth of crystal shattering at once. Ships that had destroyed civilizations crumbled like glass dropped from a great height. The beautiful, terrible, ancient vessels of the Velen Empire fell apart in the sky. Morak staggered. His luminous aura flickered like a candle in the wind. For the first time in 12,000 years, fear appeared in his 6 eyes. "What have you done?" His voice in Yuna's mind was no longer confident. It was panicked. "We said no." Above Earth, Admiral Hyam Wu's fleet emerged from behind the moon. 200 human warships, small and primitive by Velen standards, but now facing an enemy that was already dying. They swept through the debris field, targeting any crystal ship that remained intact. Private Yunji watched a Velen cruiser break apart 50 kilometers from her shuttle. She had delivered her echo bomb successfully. Her 90 seconds of training had paid off. Around her, other delivery shuttles cheered over their communications channels. "Corporal," she said to Jiho, who was piloting their shuttle, "could we just win?" "Not yet," he replied. "But we are winning." On the ground, the Velen who had come to accept worship found themselves surrounded by enemies instead. Humans who had been bowing suddenly rose. Weapons that had been hidden appeared in their hands. The temples that looked like places of worship revealed themselves as fortresses. General Sujin's voice broadcast across all military channels. "All ground forces, engage. No mercy, no hesitation. Today we end 12,000 years of tyranny." The fighting was short and brutal. The Velen were strong, but without their crystal ships, they were just organisms. Their divine light faded. Their telepathic voices weakened. One by one, they fell. In Central Park, Morak collapsed to his knees. His body was withering without the crystalline matrix that had sustained him for millennia. Yuna stood over him, watching the light drain from his 6 eyes. 12,000 years, he gasped. 17 species. And you, in one day, we are stubborn like that. Others will come. The Velen Empire spans 100 systems. They will avenge us. They will burn your world to ash. Yuna knelt beside him so she could look directly into his dying eyes. Let them try. And when they come, tell them what you learned today. Tell them what happens to gods who demand that humans kneel. Morak's last words were barely a whisper. "What are you?" Yuna smiled. "We are human. And we do not kneel." The High Divine of the Velen Empire died on Earth soil, surrounded by the species he had dismissed as primitive and weak. His fleet was debris. His followers were defeated. His 12,000 years of rule ended not with a bang, but with the quiet sound of crystal shattering. Across the planet, humans looked up at the sky filled with the wreckage of an alien armada. They had been told to worship gods. They had been threatened with extinction. They had been given 30 days to prepare for slavery. Instead, they had prepared for war, and they had won. General Sujin's voice broadcast to the entire world. The Velen fleet is destroyed. High Divine Morak is dead. Earth is free. Humanity is free. The celebrations that followed would last for weeks. But for now, in this moment, there was only relief. Only gratitude. Only the incredible, impossible realization that they had faced gods and survived. Captain Yuno walked out of the ruined temple and looked up at the stars. Somewhere out there, the rest of the Velen Empire waited. Other species suffered under their rule. Other worlds waited for liberation. The age of gods was over, but the work of humanity was just beginning. 3 months passed since the fall of the Velen fleet. Earth had changed in ways no one could have predicted. The planet that had once been divided by borders and conflicts was now united by a single purpose. Humanity had defeated gods. Now, they had to decide what to do next. The answer came from the stars. Within days of the battle, signals started arriving from across the galaxy. Species that had lived under Velen rule for centuries had watched the impossible happen. They had seen the divine fleet shatter. They had seen Morak fall. And they had begun to hope. The Shal were the first to reach out directly. Their homeworld was 12 light years away, close by galactic standards. For 800 years, they had bowed to the Velen. For 800 years, they had built temples and offered prayers to beings they believed were gods. Now they knew the truth. "Help us," their message said. "Teach us how to be free." Captain Yuna stood on the bridge of the Everlight, now leading a fleet of 200 human vessels. It was not a war fleet, though every ship carried weapons. It was something new, something that had never existed before. An ambassador fleet, sent to offer hope to those who had forgotten what hope felt like. Approaching the Corvin system, Navigator Jiwoo announced. Her hands were steady now. 3 months of preparation had turned the nervous young woman into a confident officer. "The Shal homeworld will be visible in 10 minutes. Lieutenant Taiho walked up beside Yuna. He had aged in the past months, as they all had. But there was strength in his face that had not been there before. "They are calling us God-killers now," he said quietly. "Every species we have contacted uses that word. I know. Does it bother you?" Yuna considered the question. She thought about Molrak dying in Central Park. She thought about the Velen fleet burning in Earth's orbit. She thought about all the worlds that had suffered for 12,000 years. "We killed their oppressors," she said finally. "We freed them from a tyranny older than human civilization. What we do next determines whether God-killer becomes a title of fear or a title of hope." The Shal homeworld came into view. It was smaller than Earth, with purple oceans and orange forests. Beautiful in a way that made Yuna's heart ache. A world that should have been free, but had lived in chains instead. Thousands of Shal ships rose to meet the human fleet. They were small vessels, built for transportation rather than war. The Velen had not allowed conquered species to have real weapons. "They are hailing us," Jiwoo said. "Put it through." The main screen filled with the image of a Shal. The species was delicate, with iridescent wings that caught the light and large dark eyes that seemed to hold centuries of sorrow. This Shal wore ceremonial robes covered in symbols that Yuna did not recognize. "I am Elder Mireille," the Shal said. The translation came through clearly, thanks to 3 months of work by human linguists. "We speak for the 12 billion souls of our world. You are the God-killers?" "We are humans," Yuna replied. "We came because you asked for help." Help. The word seemed to confuse Elder Mireille. "We do not understand." The Velen never helped. They only took. Why would you travel across the stars to help beings you have never met? It was a fair question. Yuna had thought about it many times since leaving Earth. Why help? Humanity had won its freedom. They could have stayed on their planet, built their defenses, and waited for the rest of the Velen Empire to come. Instead, they had chosen to reach out, to offer something the galaxy had not seen in 12,000 years. "Because no one should live as slaves," Yuna said simply. "Because your suffering was caused by beings who called themselves gods, and we know now that they were not gods at all. They were just tyrants with advanced technology. And tyrants can be beaten." Elder Mireille's wings trembled. Yuna realized that the Shal was crying. She had not known that Shal could cry. "Will you come to our world? Will you teach us what you know? We will do more than that. We will stand beside you." If the Velen return, they will face not just humans, but every species that chooses freedom over slavery. The Shal delegation met the humans on the surface of their world. Yuna's contact team was larger now. Taiho, Jiwoo, and the original Everlight crew. Dr. Hana, whose discovery had made everything possible. General Sujin, representing Earth's military. Dr. Minho, whose echo bombs had changed the course of history, and hundreds of new faces. Scientists eager to learn about alien worlds. Diplomats trained to navigate unknown cultures. Soldiers ready to defend allies they had never met. Elder Mireille approached Yuna with slow, careful steps. The shawl moved like they expected to be struck at any moment. 800 years of abuse had taught them that power meant pain. "You destroyed the divine ones in a single day," Mireille said. "How is this possible?" Yuna knelt so she was at the shawl's eye level. "We found their weakness. We built weapons to exploit it. And we fought together, every human on our planet, united against a common enemy. We never thought to fight. We believed they were truly divine. We believed resistance was impossible. That is what they wanted you to believe. The first weapon of a tyrant is not force. It is the lie that resistance is hopeless." Yuna smiled gently. "But resistance is never hopeless. Not when you have something worth fighting for." Marie's wings spread slightly, catching the light of their alien sun. "Will you teach us? Teach us how to fight? Teach us how to never kneel again." Yuna stood and offered her hand. The shawl looked at it with confusion, not understanding the gesture. Yuna took Mireille's delicate hand instead and raised the elder to full height. "First lesson," she said. "You are already standing." Over the following weeks, human engineers worked with shawl scientists. They shared the secrets of the echo bombs. They explained how Velen technology worked and how it could be defeated. They trained shawl soldiers in tactics that the Velen had never faced. But they taught more than warfare. They taught organization and cooperation. They taught how to build ships that could fight. They taught how to communicate across vast distances. They taught that freedom was not something granted by gods, but something taken by those willing to sacrifice for it. And as the humans worked with the shawl, other messages arrived. Other species who had seen what happened on Earth. Other worlds that wanted to learn how to be free. The Velen Empire was not dead. Across 100 star systems, Velen overlords still ruled. They were gathering their forces, planning revenge against the species that had killed their high divine and shattered their myth of invincibility. But they were no longer facing one small planet of primitives. They were facing something new. An alliance of species that had learned the truth about gods. An alliance that grew stronger every day. Yuna stood on the observation deck of the Everlight, watching the shawl homeworld rotate slowly beneath her. Taiho joined her, as he always did in quiet moments. "The Velen will come for us eventually," he said. "They have hundreds of worlds, thousands of ships. We won one battle, but the war is just beginning. I know. Are you afraid?" Yuna thought about it. She remembered the terror she had felt when the first Velen message arrived. She remembered facing Morak in his crystal cathedral, convinced that humanity was doomed. She remembered the moment the echo bombs detonated, when 12,000 years of divine rule ended in shattering glass. "No," she said finally. "I am not afraid. Because I know something the Velen never understood." "What is that?" "Gods do not defeat gods. Technology does not defeat technology. What defeats tyranny is something simpler and stronger. It is the belief that every being deserves to be free. It is the courage to stand up even when standing seems impossible. It is the refusal to kneel, no matter how powerful the enemy appears." She turned to face Taiho directly. "The Velen ruled for 12,000 years because they convinced everyone that resistance was futile. But we proved it was not. And now every species in this galaxy knows the truth. Gods can fall. Empires can crumble. And when free people stand together, there is nothing in the universe that can make them kneel." Taiho smiled. "So what do we do now?" Yuna looked back at the stars. Somewhere out there, billions of beings still lived in chains. Somewhere out there, the Velen were planning their revenge. Somewhere out there, a war for the future of the galaxy was about to begin. Now, she said, we finish what we started. We free them all. The Everlight turned toward the next star system. Behind it, 200 human ships followed. Behind them, a fleet of Shawl vessels that had not existed 3 months ago. And behind them, signals from a dozen other worlds, all asking the same question. How do we become free? The answer was spreading across the galaxy like light pushing back darkness. The answer was hope. The answer was defiance. The answer was the simple, powerful truth that humans had taught the universe in a single day. The age of gods was over. The age of equals had begun. And it began with humans who refused to kneel.